bit of handling information using the historical method for history, using the sociological method for history. So you cannot compromise on this information. How sociologists would do, how a historian would do. I am reminded of a very famous statement of a sociologist about the relationship between history and sociology. You cannot make historical omelets without breaking few sociological eggs. And similarly, you cannot make sociological omelets without breaking few historical eggs. Because fact is common to both. Now I come to when I joined in '84. A very interesting thing was happening, which did not affect the history. I don't want to go into the reasons. I came to know about it because when we came in first, the only eating joint was peaceful ending afternoon. It was quite famous. I am talking about '84, February, March, April. So we used to go there, and there was Professor A.M. Shah. He is a very interesting gentleman in the sense he passed out of Baroda University with M.N. Srinivas as head of the Department of Sociology. It had started. They did not have 4 papers to teach to start with for the first 2 batches. What I am saying is a fact. He himself told me. M.N. Srinivas is heading the department. Sayaji University, they got all the best people there. So M.N. Srinivas was heading sociology department. For students, only 4 papers were offered in sociology. Rest, they have to take it from some other discipline. And another equally competent person was heading archaeology department. Subramanian, you must have heard about him. He wrote the personality of archaeological history. So this Professor Shah did 4 papers in archaeology to complete the MA. See, it is by accident. It was an interdisciplinary. He was an interdisciplinary product. 4 papers of archaeology and 4 papers of sociology. And 84, Romila Thappar's Father Kira's lectures was published by Oxford. From lineage to state. Do you expect any history there in the title? You don't. But it is history. And knowingly, unknowingly, consciously, unconsciously, lineage formation, lineage society, this came. And it was reviewed by a sociologist. That was the talk of the T school, not of social science. It has not come here. So some of us, newly joined people, we started this as contributions to sociology. You don't have sociology in this. Otherwise, you would have seen the journal. Anyhow, for students who are interested, I am posing this question. What is the question is, was there any meaningful dialogue? I mean, question as a researcher, as an educator, which bothered me, I am putting it before you. Was there any meaningful dialogue between disciplines? It may be housed in the same building. Political science will be on first floor, history will be on ground floor, some other department will be on the third floor, language departments will be there. What has really happened was compartmentalization, fragmentation of knowledge, each one defending his own territory in anthropological sense. Amidst this was happening. Lineage to state. It is another story that I tried to apply it to Tamil Nadu. I took it to Chiefdom to state. Evolution of political society, you read out. It is Morgan's Societas to Status. Okay, so there is, the question is, was there any meaningful dialogue? Yes, there was. Say sociology and history. Now we have introduced paper, I was told. Literature and history. Is there any meaningful dialogue? See, literature cannot survive without history, history cannot, they draw from, history draws from literature, literature draws from history. So you started using text. So there is a kind of an advancement in textual analysis, like you are doing on mythology, I trained from different kinds of text, textual analysis. And then literary history, and there are developments in literature as well. So now, I am reminded of my short association of 8 months with Bersenstein in the archives. I was as an young researcher of 23, 24, I asked him, why is history so contentious? His reply was, that is because we do selective compression of time and space. In history, we do selective compression of time and space. So, you do, say 10 years, 5 years of research, and earlier, longer span was never allowed. In history also, wherever, even abroad it should have been. It should be around the event. That's what I am saying. And then the event means then there is a pattern also. Causes, course, result. That's what we taught also. That's the way history was actually taught. So, when this book came out in 1994, 84, 86, it is not Romila versus A.M. Shah. Because she is very politely replying, I am not writing this as a rejoinder to Shah. You can read. Whatever I am saying, you visit this school, pull out contributions to Indian sociology, 1986, there would have been exchanges between two. So let us take it in the positive sense. Can these two disciplines be integrated? The answer is no. This made another person make a remark. It is all right. You indulge in interdisciplinary practices, but you don't arrive at a tangible form of knowledge. As a result, what is happening is epistemological anarchy is created. This is written by one Bill Readings. He is criticizing culture studies. You are killing literature. You think that culture studies is going to language and literature? No. So these kinds of criticisms are very, very important. That's what a student should know outside the, within the syllabus, related to the syllabus, and then we should also go and look for all these things. So now this problem created was genealogy versus mythology. Why? Because A.M. Shah wrote on Gujarat's genealogies in the Baltic tribes. So that is why it became genealogy versus mythology. Still, it is not myth versus history. I will come back to that little later about when we talk about Rome. So genealogy versus mythology. This is between Shah and Romila. History and pseudo-history. And the sociologist said, which I tried to follow, I think Sanjana would, we always analyze the regional social structure. I took it from A.M. Shah only. Social structures and social institutions should be given the same weightage as that of. I hope I am clear. When a sociologist is looking for history in a historian's exercise, he said, okay, you are giving too much emphasis on events. The very question is what happened in history. What happened, how it happened, how much of what happened. We have done all that. Causation in history, all that we have known. But when a sociologist puts this question, history of social structures and institutions should be given same importance as that of events. And there was another problem. What is that problem? Historian sources. They go for fieldwork data. So this source data transition was also taking place even in India. Even in India. So that is what Karashima did. Verified inscriptional sources, data was generated, analyzed, and conclusions are added. It cannot be from WhatsApp University. A historian, to generate data, it has to be verified. It's a verified evidence. So otherwise it's not historical method. So please remember, history's nature was changing, or history now wants to become a social science. Until then it was with humanities. With Professor R.S. Sharma joining, it moved from humanities to social science. So that's also happening. In many of the universities it has not happened yet. It is not part of social science. Now carefully read, for teachers also, the survey of social and economic history published by ICSSR. Have you seen that book? Edited by R.S. Sharma and I think Vivekananda. Please read the introduction carefully. Some aspects of history we are recognizing. It is written by the first Vice Chancellor of JNU, who was also the chairman of the SAP. See, psychology was admitted because they have a laboratory. But history, some aspects of social history, or ruralism got angry, started IEPAC, that is the Indian Council of Historical Research. Put it in time, 69 to 71. This I had privy to all this correspondence. So now after 30 years, I have no problem in saying that I have seen this correspondence. So history as a social science to become, you have to simply not stop with sources. You have to also start using data. Be it archaeological data, linguistic, whatever it is, but from verified evidence. So the change, the transition, you have to bear in mind. Now what has happened, it has further evolved. From data to information. Facts are in the back burner. Nobody is bothered about. But who is bothered about the facts? We are talking about microhistory, macrohistory, landscape, town planning may be landscape there. You will also have it as Kilkinda in Hampi. So when there is a leavening, so what kind of information is generated and how you use it, that is very, very important. Do it with a method. Let it be historical. Then go by the rules of historical method. If it is a sociological exercise, go by sociological. See, this is what is required. Can it be done? Has anybody shown? I am trying to show few because I am fairly conversant with two disciplines. One I have spent 50 years plus, another I have spent 60 years plus. And I am able to see both of them operating in universities. So now you will be happy to see Romila's response because I can't go into the debate fully. It's not even a debate. It's a kind of exchange I would like to do because it didn't get up with others. I mean, nobody else picked it up. So Romila very clearly responds. A historian will give primacy to sources and concept will always be ancillary. For you, concept is important. For me, sources is important. Sharmaji used to again and again, he was a proponent of theory. He said no theory, no history. Uh, sources, primary, theory, secondary. So that is why he made that shift. Marxism as an instrument of analysis. Isn't it? You will see the realization will immediately reflect in the writings also. See, this kind of keenness has to be conveyed. So another problem was all these sources belong to the elite. So downtrodden the completely wiped. So that, I mean, they don't figure. So we have to bring in Foucault, we have to analyze the text, empower them, valorize their voices. So that kind of vocabulary we have all picked up, isn't it? So I used to have a very senior colleague. What kind of thesis he has got? आप शराब बोल रहे हैं, सर साफ बोलिए ना जाओ, जो बोलना चाहते। I don't understand most of your jargons. Very senior colleague used to comment openly also. So the changes also we have witnessed. The third problem is diachronic versus synchronic. Long-term view, long view, and the diachronic and synchronic changes over time. The major problem was you are writing on caste. Origins of Brahmins. Could you write? Has anybody has paper on origin of Brahmins in North India? Whereas in South India we have questioned. If you people have come from North, somebody told me, I got a job in Delhi University before. You go, you belong to Ganges, you go because Brahmins belong to the Ganges. No problem, you leave. So, origin of Brahmin Gotras, lot of discussions about Kosambi and all that we have heard. But still, is there any definitive answer? So, origins of Aryans and origins of Brahmins, both are still elusive. The problem of Aryan is, even Romelaji has taken that position, linguistic and not racial. But this kind of nuances, it's happening. That a student should catch as early as possible. And here the onus is in us. So lineage society as an organizing principle of the social system. So lineage formation, this is what Bhajantin was also talking about. You have a Chera lineage, you have a Chola lineage, you have a Pandya lineage. How clans evolve into lineage, how lineages are formed. What are the marriage customs between one and the other? You have very peculiar and customs are there. And I think somebody coined a term. Gynecocratic laws are peculiar. Some tribes can give brides and take brides also. Some can give brides, cannot take brides. It's called gynecocratic law in anthropology. So lineage society, lineage formations, endogamy, exogamy, these are all other areas. So as you move to 16th, 17th century, the sociologist and the social anthropologist will get it. As far as ancient India is concerned. So that is what is the initial exercise that I thought I will convey this week. Now, the suggestion that I am making today is how to make it multidisciplinary. Is there a way why they define something? We have to bring in conceptual thinking. Conceptual thinking. I mentioned about butterfly. Selective compression of time and space. How was he interdisciplinary? Not only talking about segmentary state or lineages, segmentaries, he also used, you read Cambridge Economic History Volume 1, Introduction, South India, some considerations. The very first paragraph talks about ecotypes. The land is a, that's the kind of information also you get. Littoral region, things which are born in the desert, and then the forest region, hilly region, etc. So each one is a ecotype. Is there any relationship between the ecotype and the society? So ecology and society. These are all the leads which he gave. But sadly, many of them, which he used to say towards the end when I met him, he had come here in 90s. He said many of the leads which were actually given by, you will be surprised by Kosambi, which was actually given by Kosambi, but people did not take it that way. So this interdisciplinary thinking, it has been coming, but the only thing is we did not develop it. Some of us tried, but we didn't have that power to push it on others. So now, what I want to tell you is, the existence of human being or anything is on space and time. It's a philosopher's domain also. It's a geographer's domain also. It's a social and cultural domain also. And time and this thing in music also. How it is in music? Can sound travel easily? It can only, when there is silence, only the sound can. So the space, sound and space. That's the kind of relationship that people have written. Louis Rowe. I'll come back to this grand topics when there is interaction with the formulations as well. So now it is called in Sanskrit Akasa and Avakasa. So we will also try to demonstrate the indigenous thought about time. So there is so much of talk about indigenous knowledge and its relevance in higher education. That's also being talked about. How the indigenous knowledge is useful, let us see that also. So what I am trying to convey is typology of time and temporality of ancient Indian tradition. That is the area which allows you to apply time to at least about 20 disciplines. So there is no time now for discussing too many things. We will discuss only which are the two. If it is being recorded, I think it's better that I give some basic books so that you can look up yourself. A lot of people have been talking about it. The first book I read was that of Anand Kumar, Time and Eternity, 1947. Then Tolkien and Goodfield, The Discovery of Time, 20 years later. And then I told you about Fred Clooney, Rhythm and Intent, Ritual Studies from South India, 1983. So you get this idea from different kinds of studies. These three books will give you that kind of a feel as to how these people have, one in art, another general, philosophical, the third one in religion. Then philosophy per se, this book is easily available because the Indian edition has now, it was published later. A.N. Balsley, A Study of Time in Indian Films. Motilal Banarsidass brought out the Indian edition in 2009. There was a very quiet professor, I don't know whether anybody has noticed him or not, in philosophy stuff. He has worked on time. H.S. Prasad. He has edited a volume, Time in Indian Philosophy, a collection of essays. Then R. Saurabhji, Time, Creation and the Continuum. Then a book which compares space and time analysis is one of K.K. Mandal, a comparative study of the concepts of space and time in Indian thought. I think this book is very important. You can get hold of it, it's there in your library. Please see, this will give you the kind of spirit in which I am trying to infuse this concept. It is a comparative study of both. Then, Kapila Vatsaya, see, this is another person. Because she was outside the university system, she was not taken seriously. Okay, give her the credit as an institution builder, organizer of a lot of conferences, etc. But she has produced material which are useful for us to work on. So she brought out a volume in 1996, IGNCA, Concept of Time, Ancient and Modern. Now this book is now sold out. It is not available anywhere. Only one reference copy is available in IIC. Another reference copy is available in IGNC. So what I am trying to say is the philosophy of time. We must know how people have, from the philosophical point of view, and it's easily available. Each one of you can get hold of this book by Robila Thakur. It's Oxford paperback. Time as a metaphor of history, early. Oxford, India paperbacks. This was a Krishna Bharadwaj lecture, which was later expanded and published. So, since the book is available, I will just try to summarize what is there. What are the problems involved in perceiving these things? So that will enable you to what to look for. So now, the application of time, you have the range. You have to understand. Now, what is the range? The basic principle is man into nature and nature into man, and then man and science, 3 stages. How it has actually been perceived working. In ancient India, what are the 2 principles we talk about more? Kal and Karma. Karma, again, myth and history. When it is applied to history, it will be myth and history. So, time and sacrifice. When you try to relate it to sacrifice, it will be mutual modernity. So, it is here we were just having a talk. What is secular, what is profane, how it has survived. Culture once formed doesn't vanish. It survives in some form or the other. So, even in modern period, it will be there, isn't it? So then people, the perception comes here. Is it possible? Because time is perceived in Indian thought in 2 ways. One is time, another is timelessness. So sound also is perceived like that. Anahat, isn't it? See, melodies can be heard, there are unheard melodies also. So we had one very great maestro, Veena maestro, Bhalachandra. Yes, Bhalachandra, he was a good artist, he was an actor also. And he plays Veena. I had opportunity to accompany him. He will only know how it is going. You won't hear. So he will feel that sound is traveling. Ala Shruti, only within an octave. See, if somebody has a good voice, it should be in 3 octaves. That is called Gandharva Sari. Bhimsen Joshi had. Balamurali Krishna had. Well, natural gift. So the voice can reach all 3 octaves. Top, down, up. So then 2.5, 2. According to the gift or the kind of practice, people have been gifted like that. So now with this comes the idea of transcending things also. So as you must have heard, how to write good English. If you master all the dictionary, you can't write good English. You may know the meanings. You can master, you have a good vocabulary. But writing good English, and then after that poetry, you have to transcend grammar. Unless you have transcend, you cannot do creativity. So how to transcend time? That thought resulted in Jnana Marga, Bhakti Marga, and Karma. We actually start from there only. The other philosophical side nobody teaches in class, except probably he was a master of all. He had spent a lot of time in his house. There used to be classes in his quarters. This thing and
many times you start at midnight.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we have discussed German literature to MSc students at evening 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and all that. It is all over a cup of tea. And it was the days. So now, transcending ways, overcoming time, transcending time, jnana, bhakti, karma. And we just talked about modern. One scholar, sacredness of the secular work is one. Secular sacrifice, people are talking about it now. Sacrifice of the secular, people are talking about it. This book has also come out only last year. Those who are interested, if it is in the library, kindly see. Raymond Panikkar, Opera Omnia, Volume 12. It is titled Space, Time and Science, published by Motilal Banarsi. See, why I am not to frighten you, I am giving these books. People have thought about it. Reams and reams of paper I have written. And then comes the article. So now comes the next problem. Perceptions. Whether time is circular or linear, cyclical or linear. That's a problem. And in India, we have added one more. What is that? Called Shakti, the power of time. So as the society evolves, so many other things also get it. And then, in the same token, you can also raise the question end of history. Kubaya. Isn't it? It will come in this only. So because Western 18th century, unless it is a linear time, and it is called directionality. Direction is future. But if you ask a poet, what will he say? World is full of care. There is no time to stand and stare. World is full of care. There is no time to stand and stare. That has come true. Everything has become visual. We have to stand. So fast moving, time, directionality, future, and now criticism is also coming from postmodern of this kind of philosophy. So end of history. A slight explanation is required here. Why this question of end of history has to be raised here? It is historical consciousness. You have a stage of non-historical consciousness. You have a stage of historical consciousness. You have a stage of crisis of history. You also have a stage of trans-historical consciousness. So these are all things which are being actually talked about. So now comes the question, whether Indians had historical consciousness in ancient India, which is what Romila has answered. Now you are able to connect that. Whether it is connected to the historical consciousness. Now, I want to make another short word, the range. Because unless I give you the range of applicability, at least some, you will not. Kala. you know, in South, in Tamil, if there is any Tamil speaking person here, you will understand Karan is Yam. Yama is Karan, who is keeping the time of everybody's rhythm and life. So you have also named the deities. Mystery or measure, it works as mystery or measure. Natural law and the individual event. Then permanence and impermanence of time. That's another principle which has to be remembered. And then time, concept and context. So when it is applied to music, I will shortly try to tell you Indian thought or indigenous knowledge which you are to look for. According to Indian cosmology, now comes some of the terminology. What is the time, kind of time that is recoverable from early sources? That's what people did. It is cosmological time. So we were talking about Burtonstein's All the King's Manna. So you have a source. You are trying to understand the sovereignty. What are the types of sovereignty mentioned in the sources? How is the king presented? So whether it is ritual kingship, whether it is heroic kingship. You start with heroic kingship. Then you move on to kind of ritual kingship much later. Once there is ritual kingship, you cannot forget a Brahmin was present to them. The Chakravartin model of India became an all India model. Chakravartin model of kingship. So that is how people have worked on the verifiable sources. So cyclical on the levels of cosmological time, days, 1st to 30th, then 1st hour, then it is cyclical. Months, 1 to 12, then again cyclical. Years, world cycles, kalpa. I will give you an example. And people worked on chronology on this. And you have, anyone who has taught Greek history, you will know, Cryo and Chronos. It's not a peculiar thing. Cryo and Chronos. So this is the kind of parallel thinking and wider thinking that has come to students' mind. Can I take another 15 minutes? Because I wanted to convey something, some feel about the given. Anyhow, so this is the way to connect it. Then, if you want me to give an idea about traditional system of chronology, what kind of information you get, indigenous system of calculating time. Has anyone has any idea about how Indian calendars are made in ancient India? Even now some of our priests work on that. Indian way of, see, this is a very old book, published in 1920 and republished. Indian chronology, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, D.S. Triveda, it's not Trivedi, T-R-A-V-E-D-A, M-A-P-H. So it's taken from that. We have perceived, not atom, Parmanu. In the Indian way of calculation, you start with Parmanu, lesser than atom. 2 Parmanus, Anu, makes 1 Anu, not Anas. 3 Anus make 1 tracer Anu. 3 tracer Anu make 1 Truti, T-R-U-T-I. 100 Trutis make 1 Tatpara. 30 Tatparas make 1 Nimisha. So the term Nimisha is important. It's important for music as well. Nodi, in Tamil we call it, Tamil and Malayalam called Nodi. So 3 Nimishas make 1 Shana. So these are names which must be familiar to you. You have read it and read formula proper. You have the authors and cosmological time. There is one small chart. So I'm not elaborating. I'm only drawing your attention. So 6 kshanas makes 1 kashta. Somebody calculated 1 kashta is equal to 3.2 seconds. And then when this time got homogenized, who homogenized the time? British. It's a colonial thing, GMT. Isn't it? Gregorian calendar, Anno Domini. So it's a colonial kind of a product. So 1 nimisha, if you stand before the pendulum and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that will be 1 second. That is where we calculate matras in music. This is for your information. 6 kshanas make 1 kashta. 15 kashtas make 1 lagu. So those who are from the South Indian system, you know what a lagu is. 1, 2, 3, 4. It is lagu. Earlier it was 5. Handa lagu, chadusra lagu. So technically, those who know music, you can go on that. But look at the thing. It is there in the indigenous market. The name is there. The expression is there. Some kind of perception of duration is also there. That is only. So now it is the duty of the musician or the music historian to show the evolution. Then only there will be a kind of addition to knowledge. Then 15 lagus make 1 nadika. Anyone who's from south will know nadi height. The calculation which you do for the calendar. So 15 lagus is 1 nadika. 3 nadika is 1 muhurta. 1 muhurtam, 48 minutes. So science also has tried to calculate. So that's the kind of thing that has got linked. So then 7.5 nadikas, 1 prahara or yamam. 4 yamas, 1 day or night. 15 day nights, 1 paksha. Pitrupaksha, for example. You use that expression, Pitrupaksha. So 2 months, 1 ritu. 6 months, ayana. Dakshinayana, Uttarayana. Isn't it? Night of the gods, day of the gods. 2 ayanas, 1 year. यहाँ तक तो ठीक है. इसके आगे वाला ना problem. This is for humans. We will also think about celestials. Treta Yuga, Vansha. So when that was questioned by not only Britishers, first person to question it was, you will be surprised, Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni was the first to question this. What is this Indian system? It's a mixed bag of pearls and dung. It's an English translation that I'm giving. There are good pearls are also there, dung is also there. So cosmology, astronomy, Indian astronomy, Persian astronomy. So when others try and to understand us, they make their observation. So this is how one has to understand. So indigenous knowledge is given there. So now I would like to end with some observations on music, because history you can read. Music I will take about 10 minutes. I work on rhythm, the South Indian rhythm and the evolution of the Tala system. There is a lot of difference between Hindustani Tal system and the South Indian Tal system. We have a lot of literature as well. In the Tala system, what melody and rhythm, 2 aspects. Melody, sound is associated with Akash, space. Tal is always associated with rhythm. I recommend one good book which is again published by, I have interacted with him. He was here in 92. He submitted his thesis, Louis Rowan. Music and musical thought in early India. Can you imagine in any of our papers which Professor Malay or anybody did, that book will be relevant in MA? I think APD put this question to me when he interviewed me. Why was not there? See, you can teach music unless you have a history of music as a paper, you can do. But in the kind of thinking that was coming, political economy, everything, the framework was political economy. So towards the end of 20th century, only it shifted to political culture. I'm not tired of drawing your attention. You must have seen Eaton's book, latest book. There is one chapter. Do you recollect? Cultural production during the time of gunpowder. You see, these kinds of considerations and even attention, you couldn't have expected them. So the cyclicity in music, there is no linear time. Better. There is a cycle, within that there are linear structures. So there is no exclusively cyclical or no exclusively linear. Depend on the time. So I think I have made myself very clear, but there are very great musicians who have thought about, like grammar. They have compared linearity, non-linearity, ideological, horizontal, vertical, motion, stasis. So it has been, time has been applied and studied at the highest level. Now in India, we have two methods. See, when we say time in music, it is connected to meter also. So what is the length? So similarly, you have English poetry also. So then that will give you an idea about the symphony. In India, what are the kinds of things? In European poetry, I don't know whether anyone has noticed, there is no long and short syllables. In Indian languages, you have long and short syllables. Native and Kuritic, on which the Tamil system is based. Indian poetry is called Varna Vritta. Then from that, short mantra is derived. And then, if you go by the text, Bharata's Sastra also mentions about it, and then evolution of 1 to 16 principle, etc. Then Tala and Rasa Pranas, it has evolved, on which I have already written, and a lot of things I am going to write also as a full comment. So, what is the purpose of this one is that a student should be able to handle information. I am again and again telling you, don't be worried about facts. Don't be worried about data now in 2025. You have to have the ability to handle information and say, I am doing it, applying the history. I am doing it, applying the social. I am thinking about this concept philosophically. Know the discipline, handle the information. That will train your mind. It will not be part of your syllabus. At least for 50 years, I won't have it. Thank you. So that discussions we can come out. Yeah, please. See, since there is no particular subject here, we talked about the concept of time. Concept of time is the purpose of what is meant by conceptual thinking. It is not the sociological concept. Of course, it can also be considered as a sociological concept. Sociologists also have, see, there is a rhythm of life also, to everything. But generally in history, you make it past, present and future. That's what we have applied. Historical consciousness we have applied. In music, what has happened is that duration, the terms used, etc. for calculating life. See, calendar is what? It is a calculation, and then astronomy also question. See, when did it change? Cosmological time. When did it change into historical time? You can read that chapter in Romilata. Varahamihira and all when that comes. And then even usage of eras, that is linear. Renal years, so and so ruled for, this is the renal year, so and so, that is linear time. It is not completely cyclical, it is partly cyclical. The cycle with capability of renewability, that is the beauty of Indian time. So that is why every time we interpret that cycle differently, there is creativity in music. Cyclicity with renewability, that is the hallmark of Indian culture. Any question on, not necessarily on this. See, I can share my experience, what I have gone through. See, one thing, to come to Delhi, I had to prepare for 7 years. So, in that 7 years, I read all secondary readings without periodization. I read ancient, I read on medieval, I read on modern also. Yeah.
Wonderful to listen to you.
Please.
Curiosity about, like, for example, historians of the 20th century want to recover the sounds of the past. What can be the sources for that? Like, we have been doing, say, recovering the voices of the past from the archive. What if the historian wants to recover the sound of the past? What can be the sources?
So for that, the thing is, recovering, say for example, we were talking about the common story in India is always emerged out of Damaru. Would you like to consider that as an event? You can't.
The cosmological sense?
As an event, see, even Mahabharata war was the first event that was seriously considered in history. Because of the astronomical, see, when you have literature, then the first major event in history, as an event, if people started using it, it was Krishna. Birth of Krishna, there is a lot of material on astronomy. And then Mahabharata war, there is a lot of things on that. And similarly, burning of Madurai by Kannaki, you will have it in. So it will simply say, Adi Tingal, okay, month of Adi, Perirul, Amavasya. So you can make sense of all those expressions. Then comes the question, which cycle? Because the cyclicity. So that is where the astronomical data did not get the primacy. Like even now, some people, if you ask them statistics, they will say it is creation and use of historical sources. Statistics is still not a kind of a veracity of that, is not that of others. That's why the astronomical data has never been kind of a favorite within it. So when you have sounds, you have mention of instruments. So the structure of the instrument, you get descriptions. You won't get it in archaeology. You will get it in this thing, stone carvings, like Heli bead and all. You have simple drums. So a lot of people have worked on the simple to complex drums. So the mridangam and tabla that we play, they are evolved ones. The kind of texture C.V. Raman has written. The harmonic. They are called the harmonic ones. Pakavach, tabla and mridangam. Until 17th century that was not there. So what kind of sounds and the limitations of the instrument, whether it is repeated in either literary sources or whether it is depicted, it can be, people have started, they have worked on it. It is possible. But you can't, see, even now the real problem is melody to raga, for example, which is very recent. See, melodies do not have a raga. Melodies, when you identify the dominant swaras of ascendant and descendant, then only it becomes a raga. This is what Bakande borrowed it from south. and applied it to the floating melodies of North India, made it into 30 thoughts, then only music was ready to enter the portal of the university. So several efforts have actually, so that's why it's not still clear. It's not clear, but people have worked on instruments. Some of the instruments have been very well worked out. So it's more on the patterns and all that. You would start getting texts from 17th century onwards. You start getting manuscripts also. Manuscripts also. So the same problem that I was talking about. A.M. Shah will not get either like the material that he will get for 18th century. He will not get for clan and lineage for ancient. So that has been the real problem. Some sounds are depending on the structure of the instrument. But in West they have succeeded. So because you asked this, I am telling you another thing. So when it comes to music, one other thing which is gaining ground is because it is associated with rituals. So intonation, accent, the hand gestures of music cultures, they are related to the regulation. So which again in a symphony, the same thing, here it is the hand gesture. So people, it's called chiran, technically it is called chiran. So a lot of things are going on, not only of Indian music, like other music cultures. Yeah.
Sir, I am Parav Jiga from third year history. So you mentioned about drama work on end of history. So can there be a end to history? Like, can the ideological evolution really stop? He's talking about how liberal democracy is the best kind of system human can work upon and improve it. Can there be a end stop to the evolution of ideologies? Can
No, I didn't go into the details of the idea of end of history has to be linked up with the perception of time. I stopped with that. I didn't go into that. See, if there is progress and if there is no progress, is that the end of history? That in that sense I mentioned. That sense. Directionality. See, that directionality problem has resulted in postmodernism, isn't it? The postmodernism is actually a questioning of post-industrial society. So that has also been criticized at the time. So now, suppose performance tradition is much more clear on this. See, the material is some medieval text. That text is now being performed, say for example, Kudiyatam. You will have a Torana Yuddham. It has been being performed for so many years. You know, I have heard it was performed for 100 days. Daily evening, it will start around 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening, and for 100 days it used to be performed. So lot of research is going on. But the audience is every time new. So you are producing the same text, you are presenting before new audiences, and that is why the time that is used in theatre itself is called magical time. Now, I didn't go into the web time, I didn't want to do too many things. It is called magical time.
No, I just wanted to add to what you said on the question that was asked about sound, recording sounds. Sounds as instruments of deception. You look at the sounds as instruments of deception in some of the texts, including the Mahabharata.
Yeah.
The way the conch, Dundubi, Ashwathama, Hato, Naro, Gunjaro, is a classic example of how sound.
And then what he uttered, that was
completely
drowned.
drowned in the
So
sound.
that's the kind of description.
So sound as noise and sound as a tool, both are two different things that one can see, one can look at. There are so many examples.
Now that I think I should have qualified it as I said historical time, I was talking about political time. I didn't go into the nuances of that, but that would depend on the kind of depictions that you have, and then the structure of the instrument, what kind of this thing, and then the level of musical development, etc. But that's very difficult.
And all the beatings of drums to keep the evil forces away.
Yeah.
All these Katan, Purina, Parainan, etc. in Tamil Nadu.
And most of it we are not able to even reconstruct those, but they were all simple drums.
Art's work on untouchables deals with most of these drums and drum.
Do you know that the earliest drum was from Babylon? So far, archaeologically. The earliest drum found so far is from Babylon. All simple drums. Some hollow these things, membrane stretched over it, beaten. So that's why I have coined something new, to make that harmonic drum. I coined some word. I say I play. Those who play tabla, mridang and pakawel, we play the drum. Others beat. So there is a slight difference in that expression, beating the drum and playing it.
To deal with information data when we are somewhat drowning in it. Something that is related to linguistics, specifically from the so-called medieval times, when you find the Bhakti Marga taking over the entirety of it, and when I look at Braj Bhasha or Avadhi in particular, the rhythmic aspect of it, the performity of the text first of all, and then the performity in terms of the visuality.
That's right. The words. You are talking about the importance of words. Say, I mentioned about Kuriyata. It has got 3 levels. The first level is always start the rhythmic syllables with simple drum beat. I mean, most of the drums of Kerala, they are all only beaten. I mean, it's only the rhythm. It is not kind of an evolved kind of this thing. So, but the importance of words. So, art as communication. What purpose it actually serves. Then comes the musical aspect or other aspects come as a
Specifically in the city and the repetition of the visual aspect, and the detail is a linear perspective. And what you find is that eventually the linear, grammar, vocabulary, everything depends back on the rhythm.
correct.
So, what would be your viewpoint on it? Because later on when we find Urdu also coming up in Ghazal, in Ghazal writing, it again has that peculiarity of the rhythm in it, and we're tying it again to the technical and technical aspects. So,
The thing is, I have studied some books on anthropology. So, for example, there are good books on Santal music. I happen to read a good thesis on Santal music. So, basically, whether the context is important, the context in which the music happens is important. Whether it's a ritual, whether it's festivity, whether there is extraneous influence in which it may not even belong to Santal. The words will be Santal language, but then the music will be something else. All kinds of things. But people, ethnomusicologists have done a wonderful job on some tribes. I think one has to read that. Otherwise, unless we have the specific poetry, it will be very difficult. One, Ashok Ranade, I don't know whether you have, he has written a book on the Indian drums in 6 different contexts. From primitive to work. Here the very good work. Contexts are important. Influences are.
But Akash, what you were saying about rhythmic pattern. See, many people, for example, the simple questions you ask as a part of a popular culture, why is it that something has survived and something hasn't survived? Things like Ram Feldman. Why has it survived? Why has Krishna Leela or Ram Leela survived? And that is where the rhythm makes all the difference. Because unless you have that, it's basically performative art. Performative art with a religious intent, as and when you like to use it. If you don't want to use it, use it.
and of course, as you said, that it is very transcendentalist way.
Yeah.
It has crossed borders and it has taken newer forms.
Right.
But what remains consistent is the rhythm of the rhythm.
See, now recently, I don't know how you will Chief Minister of my state, he appealed to the musicians who are very, very popular to to take up seriously the ancient texts and sing, it is not possible. Because not all languages are musical. Not all constructions are musical. See, out of all the languages, I must honestly say, Telugu is the best. And if you have least words, there is more place for musicality and the individual dressing. If it is packed with a lot of words, there is no scope for playing with. There has to be gap. In that sense, Telugu is the best language for singing. That's why it is popular. But Muthuswami Dikshidhar has labored hard to make Sanskrit musical using the instrument. And another thing is, he has sung on kshetras, which means a lot of information also. It is packed with information. But still, people listen to it. But when you compare it, Telugu language is much more musical in that sense.
Also, the Kathak dancers have very nicely used music for their rhythms to be not only sound well, but also to make people understand well. The so-called Param is a classic example of the tabla player trying to play with the rhythm and influence the masses.
The rhythm is natural. That is why the African kind of fusion music that is taking place, it's always with jazz. Jazz music. See, strong West Indian film, immediately calypso. They were breaking calypso.
There was a man called Sunil Gavaskar.
If there are no more questions, we will proceed with the vote of thanks.
On behalf of the History Society, I would like to extend my gratitude to Professor TKV Subramanian for joining us today and engaging us in a conversation about concept of time. As a token of our appreciation, we would like to present Professor Subramanian with an honor. I request Dr. Neerav to kindly present the token of gratitude.
This is our History Society publication, and only by this.
Thank you, sir.
Recreational. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We extend our heartfelt thanks also to the Registrar of Societies, Professor Harish Kumar Yadav, and our staff advisor, Professor Sabina Kasmi, whose guidance and support allowed this event to happen. A special thank to Dr. Neerav for helping facilitate this event. A special thank you to Firozji, Kevin sir and Mukeshi, as well as for everyone for their support. Finally, a big thank you to our audience for attending this lecture.
I'm very happy to see the full class on a puja day.
We hope you were able to gain something meaningful. Thank you.
Sir?
Sorry, just a minute.